everybody. How is it going? And you know what time it is? It is another edition of Side Hustle Saturday Hustle Talks. And entrepreneurs and business come in all shapes, sizes, and flavors. My guest today is Lizendra Danforth, and she is the owner and founder of Confetti Carts. What's Confetti Carts? Well, it is a luxury ice cream vending cart which she does events with. I mean, a really cool concept, and I had to have her on my show. So let's get into it. Lizandra, thank you for coming to the show today and telling me
Oh,
about, first of all, I need to go get a bowl of ice cream because talking about I love ice cream. That's like my kryptonite. But
yeah.
I heard when I've talked to you before and I loved how you started this company and I wanted you to come on the show and kind of like share your story. So tell us about confetti cards, why confetti cards and how you got started.
Yes, yes. First, thank you so much for having me on. I'm very, very excited for this chat and for us to talk a little bit. Um, Confetti Carts really was a brainchild of how do we expand? How do we create that level of wow? And my first company is Studio D Meetings and Events.
Mhm.
And we plan destination meetings for companies, for nonprofits, various organizations. And our niche is destination meeting planning. So we take our clients wherever they want to go. And so my team and I were kind of just chatting and how do we expand? We're always looking for that wow factor. How are we in planning our meetings and conferences? How are we creating that experience with our clients, giving them something where it's not that they're in a ballroom or a
Mhm.
meeting room all day, right? And so how do you make that experience great? And so we've had musicians and we've come up with all these various cool ideas,
Uh-huh.
and as I'm kind of just sitting there and thinking about how do we expand, how do we create these moments, I was having a conversation with a colleague in the industry, and he actually makes carts because that's really a trend right now.
Mhm.
Various types of carts. You have
Yeah.
charcuterie carts and cotton candy carts and all sorts of things. So we're having this, and I too, like you, absolutely love ice cream. And so we were chatting, and I was like, "What? This would be really cool if we could do an ice cream cart and, um, really make it an experience for a guest. I mean, for our attendees and the guests that are at the events." And he made one for me. He made this cart for us, and we really, our goal is to make it an experience. We customize all of our events and services for the guests. We don't have like a cookie cutter package. We really just want to make it an experience. And so our um, efforts of trying to do that for our meeting clients, we Confetti Carts was made.
Mhm. So, what were some of the okay, so you got that aha moment. You're
Uh-huh.
like, "All right, Imma do ice cream." And so what were some of the as you're building your business, what were some of the unexpected lessons that you learned as you were starting Confetti Cards? Because this is like a new venture for you. You're doing the event space, and now
Yes.
you're going into the food space. So what were some
Yes.
of the lessons that you learned?
Well, I'll tell you, it's being a meeting planner. One of my specialties have been menu planning and
Mhm.
making sure that in our meetings and conferences, that's been one of the main things that I focus on is making sure that our food and beverage was tight. From sanitary menus, dietary restrictions, all those sorts of things.
Mhm.
And so I kind of had my mind wrapped around uh, food and beverage, but from the lens of a planner, not from the lens of a caterer,
Yeah.
And so those are very different things. And so coming into this space, I take on the lens of the planner, like what's the experience, the logistics behind it. How do we get that? That I kind of had nailed down. Um, but I wanted to go ahead and get our sanitary license, like get all those things in order so that way we're legit and we know what we're doing. We have all the training and certifications for that.
Mhm.
But I really had to learn something as delicate as ice cream. We love it. It's fun. We go to the ice cream shop and we get it. It makes us feel good,
Right.
right? But from a meeting planner, you're now, I'm sorry, from the uh caterer standpoint, now I'm like, how long will this last? What's the temperature it needs to be? Like
Yeah.
you're learning all these things, which is why a lot of people don't do ice cream bars. It's because, typically, if you're going to an event and they're doing an ice cream sundae bar, they have it in these beautiful containers. They're keeping it cold with ice or traditional ice or dry ice, that sort of thing, because it's very hard to keep ice cream at temperature.
Mhm.
And so that was just one thing that I had to learn is how do you do that? Deliver a great product to the client, but also make it seamless and beautiful and all those things. And so that was a little bit of a learning curve of figuring out how to get it from point A to point B and still
Mhm.
deliver a good product.
So, what were some of the roadblocks you faced? Because, I know we a lot of entrepreneurs they'll start something like you said to piggyback on that, and then they'll face this roadblock, and then it's like, oh, this ain't for me. But I always say successful people are the ones that take the bumps on the head and they keep it pushing.
That's right. That's it. That's it. You're right. It's and I can't tell you I have not had that moment
Uh-huh.
because we're I nailed down immediately because I'm always a student of my craft. Like, let me keep learning, let me read articles, let me do webinars, let me figure out it, let me just do trial and error. Like there's lots
Yeah.
of times that I just set things up and let me see how this is going to work so that the client never sees the process, right?
Right.
Like by the time it gets to the client, we have it nailed down. And so, but I'll tell you one of the things that was a huge roadblock that made me say, I don't know if this is for me. Is transportation. The
Mhm.
cart that we have is very unique. We actually designed it.
Mhm.
Um, it was actually designed to be indoors. Confetti Carts is very different from your nostalgic ice cream truck where you go outside and stand in the line, right? Like you just, people um, are used to food trucks or ice cream trucks or carts that are designed to be outside. We've
Mhm.
designed our cart to be indoors.
Mhm.
And so the size, the shape, all of those things, because we want it to be a part of the event, to match
Mhm.
the aesthetics of the event. And
Mhm.
we'll talk, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but just the transportation of the cart, because it's small, it's just big enough to where it can't just get in a traditional vehicle. Like we have to have a trailer and all those sorts of things to transport it. And those things are
Mhm.
hard. Like getting it downtown, trying to find
Yeah.
parking for a trailer and
Mhm.
getting it through doors that may be outside that traditional doors are, which I've learned are normally 25 inches. Our cart's 30 inches.
Oh, wow.
Those sorts of things that you never like, you just walk through the door, right? Like you're
Right.
not measuring a door. Um, and so those sorts of things where you're having to buy things to maneuver and carts and hand trucks and all those things to get it in.
Mhm.
It's now that we've mastered that, it's simple. Our
Yeah.
load in is easy. But at the beginning, it really was like, I'm not made for this. This is too much. I don't want to drive this trailer. What was I thinking? I always tease my team that if I wish I just had a magic wand, because we would do all these events and I would say, bibbly bobbly boo, magic, it is all set up. It's all set up. I don't want to deal with it.
Right.
But like you said, you learn from it, you figure out the pros that, the things that work, what don't work,
Mhm.
you know and you just now we have a process. We're in our groove now. We
Mhm.
know how to do, we know the questions to ask our new clients, so that we know that load in and load out is easy. We
Mhm.
do a lot of site visits ahead of time so we can kind of wrap our mind around how many people it's going to take us to load in and load out,
Mhm.
because we want it easy for our clients. We don't ever want to be, they have enough. When you're doing an event, there's a lot of logistics that goes into it. And so
Yeah.
we're just one part, right? And so
Mhm.
we want to be a good partner with the venues so that they
Mhm.
have us back, right? And so we've my event background, that hat I often put on. How do we make it easy for the
Right.
venues that we're going in? How do we make it easy for the client? And it's a lot of forethought on the front end
Mm-hmm.
so that we're good partners.
Yeah. Now, you're in the luxury ice cream space. And so you do events like, weddings and corporate
Mhm,
events. And
mhm.
so, the big thing for entrepreneurs is lead gen. How do you get those sales? How do you get the next event? What's your process on that? How do you do that?
I'll say network, network, network.
Mm,
Um, it's it's something that as entrepreneurs is challenging,
mhm.
because that's based off your personality. If you're an introvert or extrovert, that may not be, an introvert, that's not your jam, right?
Right. Right.
So, like going to places where you may not know anyone, or
Mhm,
you're the um, you're going to a brand new networking event. Sometimes I advise, if you don't really are not familiar with that venue or that meeting, take someone with you, you
yeah.
know, because it depends on your personality. Just walking into a room, introducing yourself is hard.
Yeah.
It's and so, but that's the basis of running a successful business. People
Yeah.
have to see your face, because one of the things that I do tell um, future entrepreneurs, those that are in the event industry, that people do business with people.
Mhm.
I'm going to say that again. People do business with people. And so they're doing business with you. They're
Mhm.
getting to know you can have a great product, but if they can't match it with a person, right, then you're just another product for them to potentially find,
Mhm.
right? And so getting out there, networking, becoming a part of some of the organizations that's in your city, having one-on-one coffees, right, so that they can get to know you. You're going out there, is half of your business, is going out there letting people know that you're here, but
Mhm.
getting to know what their needs are, so then you know how to tailor your business to your preferred clientele.
Yeah.
And so it's our, networking has been how we've been able to be so successful. Is really just getting out there and getting to know people.
Mm,
It's not like, back in the days, it was like, we got to beat the pavement. No, you got to make
yeah.
relationships. You got
Yeah.
to go out and get in relationship with people,
Mhm.
um, because there's so much out there now,
Yeah.
and so what makes you different is that they're wanting to get to know you.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's key. I think network is a big thing. Network and building community. So
Hmm.
if you're out networking at an event, like you said, or you're on social media,
Yes.
um, building that community, giving people a peek behind the scenes of what you're doing,
Yes.
because people are nosy. And so they
Yes.
want to be able to find a way to connect with you and why they want to do business with you. So I think
Yes.
that's really important that you bring that up, how networking is key. Because if I have to go to another networking event, I feel like I'm just gonna slip my wrist right now. But it's helpful. But
It
it's helpful.
is.
I've made some of my biggest deals going to a networking event.
That's right.
Going to a networking event. So,
That's right.
we always have to deal with clients, whether you're in the
Yes.
product space or the service space. How do you deal with difficult clients?
Um, I really take the approach of, like just putting myself in their position, right?
Okay.
And
Mhm.
so I do a talk when I do a lot of speaking engagements. And one of the talks that I do is called Deliver the Honey, Honey. And I am teaching and educating my peers in the industry about customer service. There are some challenging people out there,
Mhm.
right?
That's
And
it.
oh my gosh, right? And
Yeah.
we're in a service industry. You
Mhm.
get it. You're also in a service industry.
Right.
And so there are some people out there that really just get your blood boiling. But
Mhm.
it's like I really try to put it in that you always deliver the honey. It's like glass half full. How do we service you? If there's an issue, how do we fix it?
Mhm.
If there's something that I may have done, because I'm human, right? I try to always deliver a um my service is done with excellence, deliver an excellent product. I tell all of my team, when you walk out there, you're representing our brand from
100%.
our
Mhm.
uniforms, the cleanliness of our products. When for my meeting planning team, when we walk into a room, we represent excellence, right?
Mhm.
And but you're not, even though you're putting your best foot forward, there are some opportunities that you may not meet the expectation of everyone.
Mhm. This segment of Hustle Talks is brought to you by Studio 951. Need a game changing marketing strategy? At Studio 951, we help businesses stand out with expert branding, social media management, content creation, web design, and video editing. From crafting eye catching visuals to driving engagement, we bring your brand to life online and beyond. Ready to grow? Let's build something amazing together. Visit studio-951.com today. Mm-hmm.
And so in those cases, then our job is to figure out, how do we make it right? It's like, is it offering a discount, offering another level of service, you know, asking them tell me what the issue is. How
Mm-hmm.
do we make this right for you?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times as business owners, we've heard the customer's always right. No, they're not.
No, say that again. You know that is so true.
They are wrong, they are honorary, they were mean, like they were having a bad day. It really has nothing to do with you, you
Right.
know. They were having a bad day and they just poured it all out on you because you just happened to be the straw that broke the camel's back that day.
Right.
And
Right.
so in all of that, we take on all of that. And I always, like I said, tell my team when I'm doing these speaking engagements, I just encourage, just we know that that's what we're in, right? We're in the
Mm-hmm.
service industry. So when you're dealing with clients that, may be a little challenging, then we're asking the question to them. How
Mm-hmm.
do we make it right? Instead of just going full force and saying, this is what I'm going to do, that might not be what they need. you
Yeah.
know it's like, how do you tell me what do you need? How do we make this right for you? How do we make this event better for you? How do we make our services better? you
Mm-hmm.
know and if there's nothing that we can do to make it right, then my next go-to is saying, I can recommend someone, and then you can see if they would be a better fit for you,
Right. You have to be
because
ready
that
to
might be
walk
the case.
away. Yeah. Because
That might be the
some
case.
people you just cannot please. The vibe
Yeah.
ain't there.
Yes.
It just, we're going to agree to disagree. So we just might as well part ways.
Yes. And we're doing it. I'm happy. I have lots of friends in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if I can't do a service, then I can recommend someone who can,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, because, and to me, that's good customer service. How
Right.
are you helping your client? And the best way to help them sometimes is to find someone else that can help
Help
them.
you. Help me help
Yes.
you get another somebody else to help you.
Yes. Yes.
Do
Yes.
you
Yes.
now, as entrepreneurs, we wear like 20,000 different hats. If
Oh
we're
my
not
gosh.
HR, then we're graphic design. If we're not graphic
Mhm.
design, we're web design, customer service. How do you find the balance between running your business and wearing all these hats to, like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna sit down and take some me time. I'm gonna spend some time with my family. How do you find that balance?
I will tell you, being intentional.
Hmm.
And globally, I'll say, as business owners, we all have that challenge.
Mm.
I'm gonna step back and I go a little bit further and say, as women, our
Yeah.
challenge are even greater,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Because some of us are mommies,
Yeah.
you're business owners, some of us are wives, some of us are girlfriends, some of us are leaders in the community, leaders in your church.
Mhm.
We, like you said, we wear different hats,
Mhm.
and you have your personal life and your business life. And so for me, it's being intentional about taking care of me. And I had to learn that, because if I'm not good, nobody's good, you know? And so being intentional means
Mhm.
looking at my calendar for the month and planning, putting in the schedule what time my hair appointment is, putting into the schedule what time my manicure is, put it in the schedule and say, I don't know when I'm very busy these next 3 months, but there's an opening in April. And so I'm going to right now schedule a massage in
Mhm.
April. So
Yeah.
now I have something to look forward to, right?
Yeah.
Because I know that I'm busy. And so I put it in the calendar. I go ahead and be intentional and making that appointment. And so that way, no, nothing or anyone can take that time because it's already blocked in the calendar,
Mhm.
right? And it's that's something to look forward to,
Mhm.
is that I'm going to have this massage on this day. And so really just affording myself to say that you need to take care of you, because if you're stressed and you're doing all these things,
Mhm.
it's now you're doing nothing well, right? Because you're
Mhm.
tired,
Correct.
you're slow. It's like taking out time to say that I work out in the mornings at 6 a.m. That's my time. It's my quiet time, for me studying and having quiet time with God. Like that's my time at 5:30. I know I need to do that before the rest of the people in my home wakes up,
Mhm.
because
Right.
then you hit the ground
100%.
running,
Mhm.
and so that's my strategy. But it's really just being intentional with my time and blocking it in my schedule, because
Mhm.
it's so easy, in the world of Calendly, like right now, that's the
Yeah.
world we live in. You post your calendar and people just pick a time that they want to meet, and
Right.
so when you block that time out, you're saying that this is my availability,
Yeah.
right? And it's and even I'll even say this from my, with putting on my business hat, I block out times for certain things. Like I write in my calendar from 8 to 9, I'm checking email, and then from 3 to 4, I'm checking emails.
Yeah.
So then that way I have those other times for meetings and um appointments and doing all the other things that come with running a business,
Mhm.
because it's very easy to get caught up in just answering emails all day,
Right. Yeah.
right? And you've done nothing else,
Right. It's like, okay, where'd my day go?
responding to emails. And so
Right.
I block that out, because I need to, it's important that you get back to people, so that you can keep the train running.
Mhm.
I don't want my clients to email me and they're like, well, I want to do business with her, but she never responds.
Right.
Well, I was building the website, or I was ordering ice cream, or I was, it's,
Mhm.
they just want you to get back to them. So I know that I have to block out time just to answer email. So then that doesn't get in the way. So really just balancing your schedule and being intentional.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, being intentional is really important because if you're not, I think you're gonna get burned out really easily, I
Yes.
think that comes
Yes.
really easily. If you don't take the time to just kinda sit back and be like, okay, let me structure my day. What are my goals for today? I am going
Hmm.
to get up and go walking. Like you said, do something for myself. Clean
Yes.
my house because it's walking and talking
Yes.
right now. Those
Yes.
simple things.
Yes.
I think you won't burn out as quick. I know when I was an entrepreneur or when I started my journey, it was kind of eye opening for me because I learned a lot about myself.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, it's a lot of self-reflection.
Yes.
So when you started your journey, you had your event, meeting,
Business. Mhm.
business, and then now confetti cards. What did you learn about yourself?
I learned that I really can do what I put my mind to.
Mm.
It's and let me explain that. I was talking to my son, and he was the one that told me this,
Uh-huh.
because as an entrepreneur, um and I'll even say as a female in this world of social media,
Mhm.
we deal with, consciously or unconsciously, we deal with a lot of imposter syndrome.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, 100%. Yeah, we do.
We
You know,
do.
good well, you can do it, but you psych yourself out. So
You
true.
psych yourself out, you
Mhm.
know? And so there's, social media shows things with a lot of edits, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
a lot of filters. They show our colleagues, they show other people in the world that's doing what they do as if it was overnight. You
Yeah.
know, they
Yeah.
show the best part of it. You don't see the behind the scenes. You
Mhm.
see the filtered post. And
Mhm.
so that doesn't help with the natural imposter syndrome that just comes to us of whether or not I can do it.
Right.
And so it's I've always had an entrepreneur spirit. I owned a company prior to me reopening Studio D. And then we had children, and all of our children came back to back very quickly.
Yeah.
So I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I need to pull back from,
Mhm.
running a business and focus on my family.
Yeah.
And so I did that for 10 years of really just focusing on my children, making sure they had what they had. I went back to corporate America, because to me that was easier.
Yeah.
It's, I'm going to work my 9 to 5. I'm going to take care of my children. I'm going to be at all their games, all the stuff.
Boom, boom. That's what they teach us.
That's right.
Mhm.
And but inside, that entrepreneur in me just kept, you know, was kept coming out. I really want to do this. I really can do this. I really want to do this. And so out of a lot of prayer and conversations with God, like, do I want to do this? Can I do this?
Mhm.
I really felt, from God telling me,
Mhm.
now is your time. Right. And so you have that confirmation, you do it, you take the leap, you go and do and start your business. And in that, it's still that still small voice inside that, like, is this going to be successful?
Yeah.
Am I going to do great at this? Am
Mhm.
I going to be able to get clients? Am I going to be able to sustain this? Like, and I taught in business, I've just in knowing business, if it don't make money, it doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, is this gonna make money? This can't be a hobby, right? Like, we have growing children, like, and I don't want to waste time.
Mhm.
And in doing that, I'm doing all these things and working and, continuing to encourage myself every day, circling myself around like-minded business owners and professionals to say, yes, I can do this, and suppressing that imposter syndrome. And I was talking to my 10-year-old son, and we were having a conversation, and he's the sweetest kids. He's an early riser too. So he was sitting across, I was drinking my tea and he was drinking his juice, and we were just having our little morning conversations as we do. And he said, Mommy, he said, I'm so impressed by you. And I'm like, what?
Okay.
You know, he's 10,
Mhm.
and he said, I love that you do whatever you set your mind to.
Mhm.
He said, and I see that when you say you're going to do it, you do it. He said, and I think you're pretty successful. And I was like, God, I mean, he's 10. He does, in his
Yeah.
mind of successful, right?
Yeah.
And to hear that innocent person
Mhm.
say that means that he's watching.
Yes.
That means that he's watching, right? He's
Yep.
not just, you think children are just playing, but children are watching,
Mhm.
right? And so to me, that was the aha moment that it
Yeah.
doesn't matter how hard it gets,
Yeah.
how challenging it gets, I'm going to continue to push through because someone's watching. And
Yeah.
whether it's my 10-year-old son
Mhm.
or the sister across the hall or across the table or across the room that you
Mhm.
don't know that's watching,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or, they're saying, I want to do that. Like, we are
Mhm.
examples to people that we would never even have conversations with,
Right.
right? And we owe it to ourselves and to them to always put our best foot forward.
Mhm.
And so, what I've learned about myself through the eyes of my 10-year-old son is that I can do it.
Yeah.
And so forget about all of those things that are telling you in your mind that you can't, or even if you didn't do something well, don't worry about it. Take that lesson,
Yeah.
Figure out how to train yourself to do it better, right?
Mhm.
And then do it better,
Yeah.
right? And so you can do it. And so that's one of the things that that I've, that I've learned about myself. And it's that when we have to keep encouraging each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say there's room at the table for everybody. But
Absolutely.
not only was your son watching, but you were molding. I don't
Yes.
think, take that into account.
Yes.
You are already being the role model. And
Yes.
so that's important too. And you touched on an important factor. You touched on success a little bit.
Mhm.
And I think people view success in different ways. How do
Mhm.
you view success? What's success mean to you?
You know what? That's a loaded question, but very simple. I could go into this whole monologue of, all the things that I would like to do that measures that would quantify success, a little bit in my mind, but also in the world's mind, right?
Right.
Money, status, like all of those things, right?
Right.
Like we all want it. We all want
Mhm.
those things. And that does create success. Again,
Right.
if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense, right? Like we're not doing this for a hobby. I don't
Right.
need something else to do, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
But success to me is hearing my son say that.
Yeah.
Success to me is being an example of an a woman who did not come from money,
Yeah.
right? And building something from the ground up and leaving a legacy for my children. You know what I'm saying? Being able to, and the legacy may or may not be monetary, but the legacy may be uh strength, hard work,
Yeah.
dedication, living
Mhm.
out your dream. It's like going forward, even when it doesn't look like that's what you should be doing. It's
Mhm.
like there's so many of us that have so many great things inside of us, but out of fear, you never even take the leap to do it.
Right.
So if I can leave that to my children, that they're saying, you know what, there is something in me that I want to do, whatever
Mhm.
that might be, they have a footprint and
Yeah.
an example, right? Like you were saying earlier, they have an example of my mom was an entrepreneur. I can do it too.
Yeah.
It's like I want to be able to do that. Success to me is having the freedom of my time to go
Mm.
to all of their basketball games. That's
Yes.
success.
Right.
You know, because, I don't, they're not going to get this time back with them. And I do all that I do for my children, right?
Mhm.
It's for me, it's that internal fulfillment, right? That I'm doing what I love every day. I used to, tell my team that I always want them to, when I was in corporate America, I want you to enjoy working here. You're with us 9 hours a day.
Mhm.
And if
Right.
you have to work, you need to enjoy what you're doing, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so now I get to enjoy what I'm doing, as an entrepreneur. And so success to me is time, like we're talking about being intentional with taking care of yourself. I don't want to do all this work and building a business, but I don't get to see my son hit that 3-pointer at the buzzer.
Yeah.
Like I want to be there as much as it embarrasses him with my pom poms.
Not the pom-poms, mom.
Honey, pom-poms and all.
Not
I'm
the
like, you got
pom-poms,
it.
mom.
I don't want to miss those moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's success to me is,
To serve ice cream to 3 people, living or dead, who would they be?
oh, got it. I would, and these are three of my most admired women on this planet.
Okay.
Uh, Maya Angelou, who's not here, no longer with us,
Mhm.
uh, Michelle Obama, and Oprah.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so they just represents class and elegance and brilliance to me,
Mhm.
right? And so to serve one of our delicious flavors, and one of our most favorites is our brown butter bourbon ice cream, and
Mhm.
just sit across from them and serve them our ice cream, let them see how elegant and wonderful our services are. But really, just to have a conversation with those three women and soak in all of their brilliance and wisdom would
Mhm.
be absolutely phenomenal.
Now, see, you need to
Absolutely
come up
phenomenal.
with like power flavors now for your ice cream.
Yes.
That could be, see, then we just started something
We
now.
just started talking. Absolutely.
Have to have some power flavors to serve powerful women in corporate America. So when you do a retreat
Yes.
with the ice with confetti cards, you got
Yes.
power flavors to go along with it.
That's right. That's right. Listen, we're all about customization, so we will definitely make up something, to represent
Right.
all these powerful people. Yes.
Think's the best advice you could give somebody? Not so much someone that wants to get into the ice cream business but once that, with the layoffs going on and, people not knowing whether their job is secure or
Yeah.
what's the best advice that you could give somebody that's thinking about starting their own business?
I would say decide on your passion. What are you passionate about?
Mhm,
It's you're an entrepreneur. You've been in this business, you've been doing business for a long time. You've been in corporate America.
mhm,
And a lot of us find our way into a career, or I can even say sometimes stumble into a career, right?
mhm.
It's
Right,
like you may have um someone may have said that, oh, you're really good at this, so you should be in customer service, right?
mhm,
Or, it might be the job that's available in your city, or, sometimes in the various cities, they're pillar, or shall I say, um, cornerstone companies. Like most people work at the hospital, most people work
mhm.
at the university, or,
Right,
those sort of things. And you find your career with the jobs that are available. And then you
mhm,
look up and you've been there for 10 years,
r
you know?
right,
Right? And so it's in this era that we're currently living in, I would say find what you're passionate about, because it's that way when you're passionate about it, you're going to do it well. You're going to do it with excellence, because then it doesn't really become a job. It's
right,
like you love what that is. If it's in medicine, or if it's in hospitality, or technology, web design, marketing, whatever it is, it's if you're passionate about those things, um, and you know what they are. Some
mhm,
people are like, I don't know what I want to do. Well, what do you like to do? What are your interests?
mhm,
What makes you tick? What could you sit across from someone and talk about all day, right?
right.
And get tired about it?
But find
What
some
could you
self-control in the passion because there's been times where I've stayed up all night.
Mhm.
I've like, "Oh, I guess I better go take a shower. It's 3 o'clock." So, yes, I agree with you 100%. Do
Yes,
something you're passionate about, but put
yes.
some guide rails up, y'all, because y'all can
Oh,
get so passionate that you're like, "Did you wash your
you're right.
teeth today? Did you change your clothes?" "I'm
Yes,
working." "Yeah, okay."
yes,
That's cool,
yes.
but let's take some self-care moments, okay?
Absolutely, going back to that self-care.
Right.
Yes, yeah, you're right, absolutely. You gotta have some guide rails into that, and, oh, it's so then that way you're feeding the whole person,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And, now it's the way that our era is the era that we're living in right now. People are anxious, and you're like, "Well, maybe I should just do this, so maybe I should do this." Find your passion, figure it
Mhm.
out, get a plan,
Yeah,
get a
and it's a
plan.
marathon, y'all, it's not a
Yes,
sprint. There's no
correct.
such thing as quick money. I mean, there have been some
Absolutely.
unicorns out there that have been successful,
Right.
but for a thriving, growing business, take your time.
Take
It
your
is
time.
not going to happen overnight. Trust when I tell you.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. You're right. You gotta have a plan. If you've written the plan out, you know what your next steps are, from A to Z. And
yeah.
it's there are some things you're gonna have to, adjust and pivot along the way. But
Mhm.
if you've written out a plan, you have a goal, write your goals. What am I going to do day one? So then that way you're not trying to get to Z and you
Yeah.
haven't done, you know, all the other steps. And
Right.
so getting a plan, so then that way you're taking care of yourself, you're not getting so anxious and trying to get it all in one day, because it's not quick.
Mhm.
Just like you said, Lisa, it's like you really do have to map out what you want to do so that way you can be successful
Mhm.
in your business, whether it's a side hustle, if you're just kind of starting this while you're still working your full-time job, or if you're jumping all in and going 100% full-time into doing this, whatever your story might be, whatever your approach might be, you need to get a plan, so then that way you're exercising that plan so
Yeah.
that you can be successful.
Yeah. 100%. Well, Lizendra, I was apprehensive to have you on the show because I was like, she ain't gonna do it. She ain't gonna do it. But I'm so glad that I reached out to you. I'm so happy to learn more about you and your business and sharing some insights about what it is really like to be an entrepreneur from a perspective of a serial entrepreneur like yourself. Tell the people how
Um,
can they find you. If I wanted to have an ice cream event right now, how can people
yes.
find you?
Well, listen, you can find us on social media.
Mhm,
Um, our tag is at Confetti Carts, and that's confetti with the K.
mhm.
At Confetti Carts. Our website is confetticarts.com. Like you said earlier, Lisa, we do all sorts of events. If it's a party, we can be there. Corporate events, social events, weddings, we can
Festivals,
do it.
celebrity events, Oprah,
Oprah, all of it. Call me.
Michelle, call her.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I'll tell you, this has been a joy. I'm so glad you asked me to come on. This has been so much fun.
Mhm.
Um, I love talking, with fellow entrepreneurs and, having this conversation and just sharing our knowledge with others and,
Yeah,
like I said, supporting others, being there. This is support, right? Your
absolutely.
audience,
Yeah,
this is what you're doing is incredible, because your audience get to hear other entrepreneurs and say, I can do that. They get to
yep,
see themselves in
yeah.
all the people that you have on your show. So this is phenomenal. Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you so much. I dropped it for a minute and people are like, where are you at? Come back. And I'm like,
Yes.
come back. And so now it's like, I want to be on the show. So, it was to me, I had that imposter syndrome, like you said,
Mhm.
like, I can't do that. What am I doing on being a podcast? Child, I've seen some of these podcasts. I was like, let me go on here real quick and
Yes. And do your thing, honey.
do my thing, my thing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being on the show. And Side Hustle Saturday community, you all know what y'all need to do. You need to subscribe to the channel, ding, 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 so you can see more amazing entrepreneurs, get more insight, and you can turn that side hustle to your main hustle. That's all I have today. This is Lisa from Side Hustle Saturday Hustle Talks. And guess what? I'll talk to you soon.